Welcome to Revolutionary Gazette. I'm Will. Well, today's a big day for me. I've had a love of the British side of history as well as the American for a long time, and I've loved the Revolutionary War era. And today, literally, for the first time, I just put this British uniform on. I'm with my friend Sean Considine from the 17th of Foot. And Sean, I think I'm ready for a recruit coat.
Well, Will, I think we got to get you fully into the 18th century first, though.
How do we do that?
We got to get rid of that 19th century facial hair right there.
In 18th century, talk to me about being shaven.
Well, shaving in the 18th century, it's not that much different than it is today, honestly. You still use a razor. You're going to scrape your face, hopefully not cut yourself. Some of the technology is a little bit different, though. Whereas today we're using modern shaving creams, anything from bespoke, like very nicely made balms, to all the way to cans of Barbasol, which you should never use on your face because it's terrible. In the 18th century, they're pretty much just using soap. They have what's called shaving soap, but really it's just Castile soap. It's soap that's made with olive oil. That's actually what we're going to be using today. It may be scented. You may have a little bit of stuff in there, or it may be actually pulverized and made into a powder. It's called shaving powder.
Well, I must say, I'm in the modern day a little bit headed there. I'm a safety razor shaver already, looking someday to go towards straight razor, but this seems like a lifestyle choice.
Oh, it 100% is. And honestly, for me, getting into it, I hate buying razors over and over again. So I did the same journey as you did. I went from a modern disposable razor to a safety razor, and now to straight razors. So today, here's a straight razor I'm actually going to be shaving you with.
We're in a place where British soldiers, if quartered or camped, would have done this. Okay, this is a morning duty. Why are you wearing your regimental?
Well, we're wearing them today because there's images that exist of British soldiers in their regimentals in camp doing grooming. There's a very famous image of a pioneer. I mean, he's got his full bearskin hat and everything on. He's ready to go, and he's shaving a member of the light infantry. British soldiers of the 18th century are supposed to have this look of a gentleman soldier. So they're supposed to look smart. They're supposed to look sharp. And you have to, in order to look that way, you have to be cleanly shaven.
Now, is this just a British thing, or is this a mores of the time thing?
It's 100% a mores of the time. You find this with the Prussian army. You find this with the French army. All of the militaries, they want soldiers to have a gentlemanly appearance.
Well, Sean, let's go. Where do we start?
All right, first thing I'm going to need you to do, undo like the top 3 buttons of your waistcoat. You're going to take your shirt, undo that as well. I don't want to get hair all over you. We're going to wrap you up so that way you don't get hair everywhere. Just kind of let it go. The next thing we're going to have is this shaving bowl, and this serves 2 purposes. Number 1, it lets me have some water. Also, it keeps you from moving, because if you're holding this bowl in your hands, you don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about you moving around and me accidentally cutting your face. So I'm going to put a little bit of water in here as I need it, and you're actually going to hold this in your hands. And you see these bowls, they show up all the time in 18th century images of barber shops. You have barbers that are actually using these.
So other than just sitting here, I'm an active participant.
Yeah, you are an active participant. So if I need water as I go, I can just grab in here and I can get some water off of there. Also for the soap. One point of contention, I guess not really a point of contention, but a point of interesting research, shaving brushes. We know that they exist in 1780. There are a couple of them that are found on the wreck of the General Carleton. They're found in other places, but we really don't know if they exist much before that. So today we're doing 1770s. Maybe a little bit of an artistic license, but for you, for me, it goes a lot better if you have that brush on your face. So I will soap you up right now. Just try to keep that as level as possible, more for you than for me. And I'm going to soap you up and get you nice and lathered here.
Now, you lather my whole face?
I'm only going to do it parts at a time. One of the things with soap is that you find it doesn't do a good job of staying lubricated for long. So you'll get a good decent amount of lather. You can get a nice lather on your entire face, but after about 30 seconds, your face is going to dry out. And I don't want that. I don't want to scrape your face. I also don't want to have to do it again. So I'll just do it in bits. So I'll do the cheeks first, and then I'll do the bottom of the neck. And then after that, I'll do the middle of the face. You save the hardest part for last, unfortunately. And that gets a nice lather on there. So the soap puts it on there, and then the brush, apologize, I'm getting water everywhere, but the brush will then really bring it out and get it nice and sudsy. Now I'm going to warn you, Will, I'm going to do stuff with your face that you've probably never done with your face before, because I'm going to be pulling your face all over the place.
Why is that? When
you're shaving, your face is full of curves, and Well, razors don't really work too well on curves because they are flat and straight edges. So I'm going to try to make your face as flat as possible. So to do that, I'm going to be pulling up on your skin, keeping it taut, trying to get it as flat as possible. But here we go, stepping into the 18th century.
Now, while you're reloading, let me ask you this. Is this something from a council? Obviously, we've seen pictures of them shaving. Mm-hmm. Do we know, is this something a British soldier might do as part of a duty, or is this some way he earns extra money?
It's something that would be done as a duty. When soldiers come out for parade dress, again, they have to look a particular way, even to the point that company commanders are putting out orders of the way men's hair have to be styled on a daily basis. There are some regiments that are saying soldiers on Monday through Friday are to have their hair clubbed, whereas on Saturday their hair is to be queued. I mean, they're very particular on their appearance. Not, maybe there's a little bit of slack in the field when you're out there in the rough, but everything about a soldier's appearance is very well regulated by the company. So this is something that's being done as part of that duty.
Okay, great.
Promise I won't gouge your eyes out. The other reason you have this is so I can wipe off all your hair. All right, let's get the other side. How'd it feel? How'd that side feel?
Good.
I can tell you're a little bit nervous first time.
A little bit of it's almost like it's almost like you're rubbing your foot on gravel or something. You're just a rough, or rubbing your hand over sandpaper is what it sounds like.
And yeah, and honestly, that's one of the reasons that people have issues with these historic razors. This one's actually from the 1780s. This is 100% original, to the point that you can even see the original owners at some point in time have scratched their initials into the handle. But one of the problems with the old razors is that they're very much wedge shaped, so you really can't tell if you're on the right angle. With modern straight razors, they have a fuller on each side of them that they call a hollow. And that hollow ends up serving as a nice, you get what's called resonance as you're shaving. You can actually hear like a whoosh, 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 kind of scrapey sound as you're doing it. You don't really get that with these, so people don't get the right angle. So you have to be a little bit practiced in order to be able to shave with one of these, which is why one of the reasons people give up with straight razors. Also, the sound sounds like you're doing it wrong, but it's something you expect. It's something you want to have.
I've tried it a few times, and I'm hearing the sounds now that I'm not getting my throat slit by, and I'm going, okay, maybe I'm doing things right back home.
All right, well, I got both of your cheeks done now. We're going to move to the sides of the neck next. So let me get you lathered back up, and we'll start this whole crazy spiel over again. Tons of fun, not too bad. But now I get to make you feel really uncomfortable and nervous. Is this your first time being shaved by someone else?
Yes.
You're doing wonderfully.
Way easier to see from the outside.
It is. And that's one of the big problems with this is I'm constantly wiping off hair. So that way I make sure I don't miss anything, because you will get like clumps of hair every now and again. And as I said earlier, your face is curved. The razor is straight. It's got a little bit of a hook on the end to get some of those tight spots. But for the most part, your face and a razor aren't really made to match each other. So you kind of gotta be a little constructive. All right, let's get the other side.
Whole bunch more going.
You did good.
Good.
How's your neck feel? Feels okay?
Yeah.
Might have gotten you a little bit there,
Okay.
but
I wasn't even feeling that. I was more trying to feel how smooth it is. I get myself with my safety razor.
It's pretty smooth. It's not going to be, I'm doing this on you. We're doing this outside. It's not the greatest spot, but you'll get as good a shave as you will with your safety razor. All right, let's get the...
So where are we moving next?
We're getting rid of the Civil War nonsense right on the front. We're going to get you really into the 18th century. We're going to get you immersed. And this is definitely going to be fun because this hair is long. Now, there are some beards in the 18th century, but they're not what you would think. Beards definitely have a societal connotation with them, either being people who are mentally or physically disabled. A lot of veterans you see with them as well, people not of sound mind, or they have some sort of religious association with them, either being Jewish, Muslim, some sort of monks. You even see King George at one point in time depicted with a long beard when he's 80 years old in 1817. But there's a line on the cartoon of it, and it says, "If we forget him, may God forget us." So it's for empathy for the king because of his condition, because people know we're in the middle of the Regency. People know that King George III isn't exactly of sound mind. So it's to say, yes, this man has something going on with him. There's something that's not 100% sane. So we need to make sure that we care for the king, which I think is pretty cool. All right, let's do this.
Now, what do we know about this being done during an active campaign season? Of course, this has been taking us a while, and if one barber is going to handle some portion of the company, if not the whole company, you're not going to get moving.
You get as many of them as you possibly can. There are very good records of soldiers if they had any sort of profession before they entered into the service. We do know that there were barbers in the 17th Regiment. Don Haggis put together a lot of that information. We do know that there were men that were barbers. So barbers, wig makers, peruke makers, anyone who has to deal with the hair, or even just servants. If someone was a domestic servant beforehand, more than likely if they were a servant for a person, they knew how to style hair, they knew how to shave, they knew how to do all the personal upkeep for whomever they were the servant for. Sometimes they would be enlisted in the service of an officer directly, or other times they would just be in the regiment and they would be doing this on a regular basis. One of the things that we were also doing is, you have a lot of hair right here. Mm-hmm. A beard in the 18th century, we're talking stubble, like 3 to 5 days. They would consider that a beard.
Right.
What you've got going on now is completely outside of the norm. Unless you were sick and you were in bed for a long amount of time, you wouldn't see that.
Just a mustache at this point?
And your soul patch.
Okay.
And a little bit. There's a body image from the 1760s called The Female Barber, of a woman sat astride a grenadier as she's shaving him as she's doing the chin. You can see I'm all up in your face. I will forgo doing that. I don't think you'll be that comfortable if I decide to do that. But you can see why she's doing that. You have to be all up in someone's business. You're handling being manhandled very well, I will say that. But maybe it's out of fear.
Let me ask you this. In the video that you did for the 17th, you did a really good job talking about preparing the razor for shaving at home. What pieces are you carrying in the field to prepare this razor?
Pretty much just this.
And that is?
That's your strap. It's about 6 inches long. This is to keep that nice razor edge on it. As someone who's shaving, that's all I'm really going to need. If I need to put a new razor on it, a new edge on it, I'm probably not going to do it in the field. Also, something like a whetstone is going to get broken, or it's going to get lost.
And heavy.
Well, they're not that heavy, but you just don't have the real estate and the time to do that in the field. Honestly, I believe that you asked earlier, why is this taking longer? I think they just didn't care as much in the 18th century. You see all these cartoons of barbers with people's noses held up like this, like a pig. And the lines are always, "Oh, it burns," or something about, "I think you're going to cut my nose off," or something like that. Barbers didn't really have a good reputation. So I don't think the experience in the 18th century is as nice as it is today. All right, now you just have a mustache.
All right.
And that's one of the parts where we were talking earlier, your home adventures of shaving. People screw up all the time. They get cuts all through here as they first start out because people want to do one stroke all the way down here. It's a lot easier to do one stroke here, get to the halfway point of the chin, and then do this as another stroke.
Especially as much as I've got a divot here.
Yeah. Well, I noticed you got a nice little cleft in the chin. That's always fun. You felt me moving your face side to side to get rid of that. That's what I'm talking about, trying to make your face as flat and as taut as possible, because we are a little bit loose and we got curves all over the place. But shaving is the art of making your face move in a way that it's not supposed to, and then taking a really sharp piece of metal and sticking it up against there. Just with your mouth, yep, it's going to make it a lot easier. This is the interactive part. I'm sorry, you're going to tear up just a little bit because you do have some extra hair here. And it's a natural reaction. Even I do it. So this is that pose that you see all the time in 18th century cartoons of holding the nose up. It's to get those hairs that are in there. That is the worst part. Now
even when you do it yourself.
Even when you do it yourself. It's just naturally where the razor is pulling on the skin, it's just going to cause you to tear up. It just happens. It's something you get used to after a bit. I don't do it as much anymore because I'm used to scraping my face, but it's just something that happens. Now you got a nice Cad Calloway mustache going on here. But that's the worst part. I lure you into a false sense of security by, oh, the cheeks aren't that bad, the neck's not that bad, the chin's not that bad. Tear! But you're almost done. You're looking good. Let's get you some water. I'll take that. You want to grab some of that water and rinse your face off a little bit. Get rid of that nasty muck over there. And you may get a little bit of irritation too, and it's because we're using linen. Our skin's
using linen.
Yeah, so all of our rags and our claws are made out of linen.
Yes.
Us in the 21st century, we're used to the nice, lovely, soft cotton. Our skin's a little bit babied. But linen, for some people, it does irritate their skin a little bit. Let me see what else we got going on here.
So somebody who might look at straight razor shaving as a way to connect to history, if you're figuring out at home, about how much time do you allot to shave yourself?
I can do this in 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
And if you're doing it every 2 to 3 days, as I do, and you keep your razors sharp on rotation, I can get it done in 5 minutes.
On rotation, how many do you keep?
Well, I've got 3 right here. These are all originals to the 18th century. So this one I'm shaving you with today is from the 1780s. I've got one from the 1770s. And this one's probably from the 1750s. I've been working at restoring this one for a while now. But in addition to that, I have another 2 razors at home. So I keep them in rotation. So that way I'm not constantly using the same one over and over again and can give it a little bit of rest.
Okay.
That way I'm not honing them all the time and doing all sorts of work with them. But as you can see, this razor is about 250 years old and it still shaves just as if it was new. They're fantastically made. It's just about knowing what you're doing with them and being skilled.
Here's the question. You're stropping every time.
Yep.
About how often are you honing? When do you know when to hone?
You can tell when to hone, and usually when you know it's time to hone when you're shaving in the way that you normally would with stropping and it's not cutting properly. It's hanging up a little bit. You can feel it. You can feel it catching a little bit more. It's not as smooth. At that point in time, you'll hone, and you're going to do a really fast hone. It'll maybe take like 15, 20 minutes. You don't need to put a whole new edge on it. You're just grinding out a little bit more of the imperfections on the blade as you would just with stropping. Stropping really is just getting off the burrs so that way it's nice and smooth, because you are going to have little burrs that go through. What people don't realize is the hair on our face seems really small, but it's as thick and as strong as copper wire of the same. So imagine your face is just covered in copper. I know that sounds really weird, but imagine like your face is just covered in copper wire. That's what you're going through every single time you shave. If you have a properly treated razor, these are from Sheffield, England, some of the finest steel of the 18th century. It's going to shave for 250 plus years, which is pretty cool.
Fantastic. Well, what do we need to do to touch up?
Just got to get a little bit on your neck, and then I'll make sure you don't break out after this.
And, well, okay, completely clean shaven. We'll save the red for the regimental and not for my face.
Yep.
Nicely done.
And just remember, that's all downstrokes. No cross strokes, no upstrokes, nothing like that. That is 100% just going down. So you're able to get a nice, completely smooth shave just from going in one direction. Now we're going to do one last thing, and this is for you, not necessarily something that was done historically, and that's aftershave.
Okay.
Historically, we know that aftershave, first recipe that I found, is from the 1840s. It doesn't exist as a thing in the 18th century. That being said, I don't want you to break out. I don't want you to get any sort of infections, razor burn, anything like that. So we want to do something on your face. One of the things I looked at is, okay, if I'm doing this out in the field, I want to make sure that I'm not going to, have a face full of zits in 3 days. So what can I do for that? So I started looking at pimple treatments and stuff like that. And they're talking about just taking distilled wine, which is just straight up grain alcohol, and rubbing it on your face. It does work. I've done it in a pinch. It does. It's very painful, but it does work. But then I found, went through some cosmetic recipes, and I found this thing called virgin's milk. This is it right here. It's a mixture of, again, rubbing alcohol, so that's going to sterilize anything. And then it's also going to have balm Gilead. It has a couple of herbs in there that are good for healing. They're meant for burns. They're meant for helping the skin. And that's something that shows up for people with bad complexion and also to help with skin stuff. So it's a very good substitute for 18th century aftershave. It also smells pretty nice. It's got this nice kind of like vanilla-y odor to it. But it's called virgin's milk. I'll show you why in just a second. Because you pour it in this concentrated form, and then
which is incredibly dark.
Incredibly
it almost
dark.
Looks like coffee or tea.
Exactly. And then as you add a little bit of water to it, it turns white. So I'm going to have you do this. Take a little bit of it, put it on your hands, rub it on your face, and that'll make sure you don't get razor burn. Might burn a little bit because, again, it does have some alcohol in there.
Well, it tingles. I wouldn't give that even a burn.
But you're going to smell great for the rest of the day.
Wonderful.
All right. You are all set, sir.
Well, okay. Shaving in the 18th century, or being shaven. I can say I've spoken for several years across multiple video series about finding a connection to history. There's not a closer connection to this. I want to say thanks to Sean for sharing with.
Thanks to having me.
And again, we'll share out the link to the 17th Regiment's YouTube video so that you can see Sean's greater work if you're interested in straight razor shaving. For now, thanks for joining us on Revolutionary Gazette. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.